Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So previously, the Social Security upcoming cost of living adjustment increase was set to be announced this month on October 15th to be exact. However, it is now being said that unfortunately that is now going to be delayed. How long it's going to be delayed, we don't really know for sure. It could be a couple weeks, it could even be a month. In today's video, we're going to be covering everything that you need to know, plus the government shutdown is now being dragged into day 8. Is it going to finally end today? Once again, in today's video, we're going to be covering all the news that you need to know. But before we go ahead and dive into it for today, if you would like to receive up to $200 in free stock or $200 in free cash, in a pinned comment below, I will be leaving a link to Robinhood. All you have to do is once you click on that link is just sign up for a free account and then simply link your bank account. You do not even have to make an opening deposit. At that point in time, Robinhood will be sending you one free stock worth all the way up to $200. And if you'd rather just have the cash, all you have to do is once you receive the free stock is just sell it for what it's worth and then transfer the cash value right back to your bank account. Okay, so diving right into it for today. So once again, today is day 8 of the government shutdown. Trump was threatening Democrats yesterday, saying that the government shutdown should end tonight, being last night. Well, that didn't exactly come to fruition, so we are now on day 8. Basically, the disagreement right now involves health care, the Obamacare subsidies, whether or not we should leave them out or whether or not we should actually include them once again and extend that so we don't have healthcare premiums potentially doubling. There are also arguments of whether or not we should be giving healthcare or free healthcare at least to illegal immigrants. That is another disagreement between Republicans and Democrats. So we are now once again on day 8 of the government shutdown, which of course is also going to be impacting majorly the upcoming announcement of the next Social Security cost of living adjustment increase. We're also going to be discussing that in just a moment as well. But first off, this article here from CBS News, they say that government shutdown impasse continues as dispute emerges over back pay for furloughed workers. So right now, because of the government shutdown, the Trump administration is threatening to not issue any type of back pay to government workers who have been furloughed because of the government shutdown. They're hoping to use that threat to make it so Democrats agree with Republicans for at least a temporary funding bill for the government through at some point in the middle of November. But once again, according to CBS News, Democrats and Republicans appear locked in their positions as the government shutdown crosses the 1-week mark without a clear resolution in sight. The Senate will hold its next votes on Wednesday on dueling measures to fund the government and end a shutdown after the bills fell short Monday of the 60 votes needed for a 5th time. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said Monday the chamber will keep voting on these same competing bills over and over. So basically, the definition of insanity is once said by a wise man is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Well, that's exactly what the Senate is going to be doing. They're just going to be voting on the exact same 2 bills headed by Democrats and headed by Republicans and hope that they reach the 60 votes that they need in order to avoid this government shutdown. Will they reach an end today? It really does not look like it. Now, they go on here to say that there is a memo from the White House's Office of Management and Budget circulating that suggests these 750,000 furloughed workers are not guaranteed back pay, and administration officials confirmed. House and Senate leaders on Tuesday pushed back against the report, saying it was their understanding the law is clear that furloughed workers would get back pay. When asked about furloughed workers getting back pay, President Trump said on Tuesday that I would say it depends on who we're talking about. So again, this is putting even more pressure on both sides of the aisle, quite frankly, because if furloughed workers don't end up receiving any type of back pay once they are reinstated at their job, that's going to hurt a lot of families, not just families who vote Democrat, not just families who vote Republican, but both sides of the aisle. That could really hurt both sides politically. That's going to put a lot of pressure on both Republicans and Democrats to reach a deal here, reopen the government. Is it going to happen today? It doesn't look all that likely. However, there is one date that CNBC is actually predicting the government may reopen by. They're predicting here October 15th, and this is the reason. So according to CNBC, as the government shutdown drags on with little hope of a quick resolution. A situation involving the U.S. military could push warring factions in Washington to come to an agreement. No, soldiers won't be called into duty to force Congress to get back to work. However, a looming paycheck schedule in the middle of October for the 1.3 million active duty members of the armed services might convince legislators in the White House that missing the date won't be worth the political cost. It's a quote, "We believe the military pay date on October 15th could be an important forcing event for a compromise to restore funding and expect the shutdown to end by mid-October," according to Goldman Sachs economists Ronnie Walker and Alec Phillips said in a client note. So again, October 15th is the prediction there. Whether or not that actually comes true, again, there is a lot of political pressure. If they miss that pay date on October 15th, if people are missing work, if they're furloughed off their government jobs because the government is shut down, obviously that's not a great political look, quite frankly, for Republicans or for Democrats. So there's a lot of pressure here to reopen the government. But right now they're sort of playing this game of chicken where they're trying to see which side blinks first. We will have to wait and see, but because the government is shut down officially, even if they did reopen even as early as today, it looks like the upcoming Social Security cost of living adjustment increase announcement that was previously expected to take place on October 15th is now going to be delayed. Even if they reopen today, it looks like there's not going to be enough time to announce that on October 15th. That is quite the disappointment. We'll have to wait and see whenever they do reopen the government how much time it takes to collect all this data. So according to Reuters, millions of U.S. retirees and other Social Security recipients will have to wait for a while to learn how big their check will be in 2026 as the ongoing partial government shutdown is set to delay the release of September's consumer inflation data. The Social Security Administration would have used the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers data from the third quarter of 2024 to the third quarter of 2025 to determine the annual cost of living adjustment for Social Security and supplemental security income benefits for next year. The program benefits older Americans who have retired from their jobs as well as the disabled and certain widows, widowers, and children. The COLA announcement, a widely anticipated event each October among the households relying on those payments, is typically made shortly after the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases September's CPI report. But the shutdown, triggered by a lapse in government funding amid a political standoff between Republicans and Democrats in Washington, has halted the collection and publication of key economic data, including the closely watched employment report for September that was scheduled for release last Friday. So according to them here, it looks like there is not going to be enough time, even if once again they decided to reopen the government today, 1 week before that report was scheduled to be released. Apparently this takes some time, and 7 days may not be enough for the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics to collect all that data and figure out how much inflation has increased by for the month of September. Of course, that is very, very disappointing. Now, at this point in time, the sooner they reopen the government and end the shutdown, the quicker we're going to get this data. But we'll have to wait and see. If this drags on throughout the whole month of October, we may not receive what the cost of living adjustment announcement increase until at some point in the middle or later November. That would obviously be pretty disappointing as well. Now they go on here to say the September CPI report is due on October 15th, but even if Congress reaches a deal to reopen the government, a delay is still likely due to the time required for BLS to process the data. In 2025, more than 72.5 million Social Security and SSI beneficiaries received a 2.5% COLA increase, and the Senior Citizens League, one of the nation's biggest senior groups, last month projected a 2.7% COLA raise in 2026, which would lift the average monthly benefit for retirees by $54 to $2,062 from $2,008 a month. So again, they are projecting an increase right now of anywhere between 2.7 to 2.8%. In my estimate, the lowest I would project that to go is maybe 2.6%. The very highest, perhaps 2.9%. But again, we're not going to know what this official number is until at some point, probably at this point, at the latest, maybe the earliest I would say is probably October 22nd or something like that. At the latest, maybe depends how quickly the government reopens. Because at this point, let's say hypothetically speaking, the government reopens in a couple of weeks on October 22nd. At that point, it might take a couple of weeks for the BLS to collect all the data and then have that released at some point in early to middle of November. But again, a little bit disappointing that we're not going to have this data out on October 15th. But again, the increase would not actually be taking place anyways until January of next year, 2026. So it doesn't really matter. It's not going to delay the increase taking place. It's just that we're not going to know what the increase is until now, maybe the later weeks in this month in October, or perhaps the earlier weeks in the month of November. But with that said, leave your thoughts and comments below about everything going on, this government shutdown, the delay of the cost of living adjustment. Leave your thoughts and comments below. But that's all we have for today's video, and I will see you in the next one.